All stations, this is Falmouth Coast Guard. Here is the Maritime Safety Information broadcast. Gale warnings. Gale warning issued Sunday the 15th of January at 0358 GMT. Portland, Plymouth. Westerly, gale force 8, increasing, severe gale force 9 soon. Gale warning issued Saturday the 14th of January at 0952 GMT. So, severe gale force 9, now decreased, gale force 8 and veered northwesterly, increasing, severe gale force 9 later. Lundy Fastnet, gale now ceased, but westerly, gale force 8 expected soon, increasing, severe gale force 9 later. The inshore waters forecast to 12 miles offshore for the period 0600 UTC, the 24-hour forecast. West, 6 to gale 8, occasionally severe gale 9 at first, becoming cyclonic, then northwest later, 4 to 6. Rough or very rough, but moderate in east and high at first in the southwest.
Oh dear. Good job, Mark's from the UK, because look at it. It's brutal. Came here yesterday and gave the place a quick tidy so it's kind of presentable for him to look round. The new boat I think is going to be Melody or Ocean Melody, I don't know. And I'm sure if Mark or whoever buys it, they'll change the name anyway. I'm still in a quandary about this. Mark, selfie I take on this boat, who knows? You can't hear me. Mark Wildling Sailing is here. Come to look at Melody. I am not trying to sell this boat to Mark. Melody is going to be for sale eventually, and my plan, Melissa and I are planning to get the boat in the water, floating with a working engine, working sails, working steering, so that whoever buys her can sail her away. If Mark wants the boat sooner than that, then I'm prepared to sell the boat to Mark. On condition that I'm at least in part involved in getting her in the water, because I know how it all came apart. So I took it apart so I can put it back together and save Mark an awful lot of time. And I do the same for anybody else, really. Just a brief synopsis of where you are in your, what you're actually doing and why you're here.
Well, I'm basically just exploring all the options that I can find. Like, I'm still not set on any one boat. Went to Costa Rica, looked at my dream boat, which is a Warren, you know, the plywood and epoxy catamaran.
Yeah.
But that one didn't really work out. I'm looking at a few other boats like that. I'm looking at steel boats, looking at Melody. I was looking at a Freedom 35, but yeah, I'm not like 100% set on anything.
No. And, right, let's have a look round the boat.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
In this episode, I start tackling the installation of our amazing new Victron electrical stuff.
I get to work on the upholstery for the aft cabin, and we meet up with Doug and Sarah, who used to own this boat and have some fascinating stories about her.
If any of those segments don't interest you, please look in the video description below so you can skip to the bits that you find interesting and skip over the bits that you don't find interesting.
Right, so Melissa is in the aft cabin sewing up some cushion covers, because being pregnant, she's restricted in terms of the physical stuff that she can do, but she's cracking on with some amazing upholstery sort of stuff, which will also, I think, probably be in this video or another one. In the meantime, I need to carry on with something that I started a few weeks ago. Do you remember when we were prepping the boat for launch and Andy was here helping me go through all of this stuff? If you haven't seen it, go back and have a look, but I'm going to give you a quick recap. This is all of our kind of, or most of our electrical installation stuff, mostly for providing power and for charging. So I'm just going to go through all of the components in this to explain what we've got and why we've got it. The very first part, the very first component in our powertrain are these, and these are our amazing lithium batteries, which we've got through Pro Marine Store, and they're the Acceleron 115 amp lithium batteries. Why have we gone for these batteries? Well, first of all, is the battery core technology. It's cobalt free, virtually no fire risk. Like, you've heard about all the problems with lithium batteries and causing fires. I'm not going to go into a huge big debate about this now. That's not what this video is about. But the bottom line is the battery chemistry is what's important. And if you get the wrong battery chemistry, you can get a thermal runaway, and lithium batteries can just propagate from one cell to the next. That doesn't happen with cobalt-free technology, cobalt-free battery chemistry. Not only that, but the cobalt-free nature of it makes the battery a fraction of the weight. This is, you know, a fraction of the weight of a normal lead acid battery, meaning that you can mount them more or less anywhere in the boat, certainly on a boat this size. You don't have to put them down in the bilge to keep the weight low like you used to with, you know, 70 kilo lead acid batteries. And on top of that, the battery core itself is fully serviceable. So the core can be, if one cell dies, it can be replaced, and that's a service that's offered by Acceleron. They've got the neat carry handle, they've got a durable case, and they're just fantastic, compact, standalone. They've got their own built-in BMS, they've got CAN bus connectivity, they've got Bluetooth connectivity. They really are absolute state-of-the-art, and they're available to you right now with a 10% discount using the promo code on the screen and the link on the screen right now. Where does that power go? Well, it goes into this, and this is heavy. It's not massively heavy in the grander scheme of things. I'm just having a weekday. This is a Victron Multiplus 2 charger inverter. So the power from the lithium battery packs goes into this, and your shore power connects into this at the same time. So the shore power will then feed the batteries with the charge that they need. And then when you're not on shore power, this provides you with AC, either 240 volts if you're from the UK or 120 if you're elsewhere in the world, and provides you with your AC circuit to your boat. So, and on top of that, it can act as a top up, so that if you're on an AC line from the marina, say, or from a pontoon that's a very low amp rating, and you want to run something that's higher amps, this will provide the top up for it. So again, I'm not going to go massively into the technical spec on this, but it's the Victron Multiplus 2 charger inverter. But if you're not in the marina and you want to charge your batteries, how do you do it? Well, obviously these days we're going with solar panels. I'm not installing the solar at the moment, but I have bought, in advance of that, I've bought the MPPT controllers. I've got this one, which is the small one, which is the MPPT 7515, and that takes the power from your solar panel and puts it into your lithium batteries. And I've got this one, which is its big brother, and it's the MPPT 15045. Oop, hang on. There you go, MPPT 15045. We're going to need two of those eventually, because we're going to have solar panels on both sides of the boat, and you can't connect the solar panels on one side of the boat to the same MPPT controller, because otherwise the panel that's in the shade drags down the panels that's in the sun. So I'll need another one of them eventually, and then so we'll have two large solar arrays at the back and a smaller array run off this one. The other way of getting charge into your batteries is through your alternator. Now in the traditional in a normal car, you have your alternator which charges your battery, right? That's just the normal way. You drive down the road, your alternator charges your battery, and then your engine's good to go next time you turn the key. You can't do that with lithium because the alternators don't provide the right kind of electricity without getting too complicated. The amps and volts are wrong. So, but we used to use a thing called a split charge relay for switching over from our starter cranking battery to our leisure battery. We don't do that anymore. We use a DC-DC charger, which basically does the same thing but in a fancier way. So that's going to go in the system so that when we run the engine, when we're motor sailing, we can charge the batteries. So if you're on a really dull day and there's no sun at all and your battery bank is low, you can charge your batteries. We should never need to with the amount of solar that we've got, but it's there as a backup. And it also means if you do happen to be motor sailing, you're topping your batteries up. Another important element of our system is this. This is the Battery Protect BP1224/100. What this enables us to do is set a threshold whereby the batteries will, or the system will turn off power to non-essential systems as the batteries get low. So basically, you want your bilge pumps to be wired directly, but you might also want some emergency lighting, an emergency chart plotter or something like that. And then you can set other non-critical items above that threshold. And that's what this does. It enables you to prioritize things in the chain, so that when the battery gets to a certain level and is depleted to a certain level, it doesn't suddenly kill everything on the boat and all your bilge pumps and your emergency lighting suddenly switches off. It leaves those on and, you know, cuts off the other non-essential things. So that's ready to go on. I was saying earlier that lithium batteries like a different sort of charging profile, and the Victron MultiPlus will provide that. However, in order to program that and to tell the Victron which type of batteries and how many batteries we have, we use this, which is basically a Bluetooth dongle, which uses an Ethernet cable to connect between this and the Victron, and then a grounding wire. And that basically means that you can connect to it with your phone or tablet to program your battery profiles. So how do you monitor your batteries? Well, you can put a voltmeter across everything, and lots of things will tell you, even your chart plotter will tell you how much voltage is in your batteries. But what they don't tell you is what the capacity is left in terms of amps. And that's where this comes in. This is a shunt resistor. Anybody that's done a marine installation before will have seen these, and normally they attach to a screen. There is a screen available for this, but this is the Bluetooth version. I'll be wanting to get the screen as well, just for ease of use, but we've only got a certain amount of budget, and this lot has cost a pretty penny. So for now, we'll just be using the Bluetooth shunt resistor and connecting to it with our phone or tablet to monitor the health of our batteries. So to switch our systems on and off, I'm going to be installing these very simple on-off marine grade battery breaker switches. And then as another safety feature, we'll be installing this, which is a mega fuse holder and some big chunky, I've got some 350 amp mega fuses here. These are inexpensive, and once I've got the whole system up and running, I'll do a bit of a calculation and work out, is 350, this will be fine, absolutely safe, and it'll probably blow sooner than I would like it to. I think I can probably go to a 500 amp mega fuse, but for now 350 will get us going, and I've got a pack of 5 there. They're not terribly expensive. I already know when my batteries are going to go. I've got a really neat place for them, and I've got room for 9 ultimately. We've got 3 at the moment. We need 9, or we need 6 or 9, but we've got time to build up, and 3 is a good starting point. I need to mount that big chunky charge controller. I'll show you where the system is going to be mounted, and then I'll show you how I'm planning to go about it. This is our crawl through, which is where I'm going to be installing all the stuff. The charge controller is going to go in that back corner there, and this plate that it all kind of hangs on is going to go up here somewhere. But as you can see, that would be putting a lot of strain on just that one slat. So I think I'm going to start by just making a bit of a backing plate to spread the load a little bit. Okay, so we've got the Victron MultiPlus 2. We've got a pair of isolator switches. I'm only going to use one for now. Now I've screwed up that fuse holder to be level with the slats, and then looking at it from a distance it doesn't look right, so I'm going to have to remount that. But then next over we've got the Marlec Rutland wind speed controller, Then we've got the MPPT 7515 and the smart shunt, and then we've got at the bottom down here the battery protect system, the DC-DC charger, and then the big 150/45 smart solar charge controller for when we get our big panels. I got those just before Christmas when they were on sale, so that's why we've got them earlier than predicted, because they came up at a good price. I haven't thrown the boxes away yet because they've still got the manuals and stuff in, and mounting screws and bits and pieces and jumpers and what have you, so I'll dispose of all of that lot once it's all up and running.
So today, or this afternoon, I'm working in the aft cabin, or I'm working in the whole boat, but what I'm doing is cutting some mattresses. We've got memory foam or foam mattress to cut to size for the two beds in the aft cabin. So when we got the boat, there was a roll of this membrane on the boat, so I've used it to cut out a template for this bed here, and then the smaller one over here, and then I'm going to transfer them onto the mattress and use my trusty new weapon, which is an electric bread knife. Now, I have previously already done the mattresses in the Fall Peak, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Jeff, you know who you are, for buying us the mattress off our Amazon Wishlist, which is really kind of you. Bought it ages and ages ago, and we finally put it to good use and cut the foam to size. It was more suited for the forward cabin, so we popped it in there, and then we've got another one to do for the aft cabin. There you go. 2 mattresses.
Yeah, this is Doug, who is a previous owner of this very boat, and we're just having a catch up and a chinwag about some of the history.
I bought her when she was in Antigua. I bought her in '95, so this would have been, I think, '96, because I went out to Antigua a few times. She was in English Harbour, in Antigua.
Wow.
Right.
In fact, a month after, or during the month after I'd actually purchased the boat,
Yeah.
they had I think one of the worst hurricanes hit Antigua that they've had for many a year.
Right.
I'd been out to Antigua before this happened, and we put her in a small bay in English Harbour, in the mangroves. I had 3 anchors out and several mooring warps into the mangrove. Then this hurricane hit, and for a month, virtually a month, you couldn't get in touch with Antigua in any way unless by an official.
So potentially you thought you bought a boat that was gone.
Yeah, I didn't know whether I had a boat or didn't. So I went out the following week, and the devastation, I can't tell you. I had a cab from the airport to English Harbour, and on the way there were still telegraph poles and overhead electric cables.
Wow.
That were still twitching.
Wow.
Right, yeah,
and we were
Goodness.
going through all this debris. Anyway, there was the boat, still tied up in the mangroves. She'd been pushed up onto the mud a bit, so that she was on a mud bank. And I had to get someone to tow me off. Anyway, when she came off, she slid off. They started pulling her. So Graham, I think his name was, the other guy. We were both on deck, and all of a sudden, all hell let loose, because all the warps that we had were zinging and flying everywhere. So we both threw ourselves down on the deck because she came off this mud bank. Like, felt like 300 miles an hour. There's all these things going on. What I've got here is the original specification of the boat.
Which
is amazing.
And I've also got some drawings of the boat.
Wow.
Which I didn't bring with me. The reason I put the other day tank in was that the engine let me down one day in really rough weather, and the lift pump, we concluded that the lift pump wasn't maybe strong enough on the engine to lift the fuel out of the
Keel,
which you were talking about almost 7. I mean, she draws 7 feet. It was just too far, so I put that tank in. For 2 reasons. One, you could top it up or fill it up from inside the boat, rather than if you're in bad seaway and you need to put some fuel, you could have water slopping about everywhere. When the guys left Antigua, I wasn't there when they left, but anyway, they left. 2 days out, they were hit with the tail end of a hurricane. I forget the name of it now. And they closed up shop. I mean, I'll tell you, it must have been, I mean, I've done a lot of sailing. It must have been pretty horrendous, I think.
They just hove to and shut the hatches and sit it out.
Yeah, they shut everything, they went down below, shut everything up for 48 hours. Anyway, the next thing I knew was when they got to the Azores. He said, well, water's ingressed the fuel tank. So obviously the engine didn't work. I mean, there was enough fuel in separate cans and whatever, not to motor all the way across the Atlantic, but to do a fair bit. And within 3 days, we drained out the fuel tank and cleaned it out totally.
Well, that's tricky.
The access isn't great down there.
Well, within 3 days, we had sailed out of Horta to Pico and back.
You sailed the boat back from Antigua?
From the Azores.
From the Azores, rather.
Back to here.
Back to
UK.
Straight into
Lymington.
Into Lymington, right?
Yeah, we didn't stop anywhere.
Right.
And you mentioned pooping.
Oh yeah.
We were pooped.
Right.
Coming through the Needles Channel.
Oh really?
Good God.
Fell off the bridge. Boy, there's almost at certain states of the tide, maybe wind or whatever, there is almost a standing wave.
Yeah.
And we fell off of it because you didn't, as we were coming in, you couldn't see it. And anyway, the boat was pooped.
Yeah.
So the cockpit flooded was one of the questions. So
Yeah.
it was why
Centre cockpit.
Why have a centre cockpit?
Well, all the reasons that you said. A, safety.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. All you've got to remember is when you're moving it, you've got another 12 feet of boat behind
Yeah,
you
yeah.
from where you are.
But with a
It
family,
is-
centre cockpit's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's safe. And there were two large, I think they're about 2-inch or something, plugs.
I've
And the
replaced all of
water
the pipe
drained
work.
out.
They were all
No
perished.
water came in here
No.
Right.
at all.
Didn't come up over the bridge deck.
No.
Yeah.
And one day we went down to, or 1 week we went down the Brittany coast, the northern Brittany coast. And I know we went into one marina, or one harbour, which was quite deep in. And when we left in the morning, we had an audience of people
Really?
just looking at the boat. 'Cause she does look,
Oh,
she
she's
does look
gorgeous.
completely
Yeah.
pretty.
I mean, again, like you, I'm biased, but I think she's arguably the prettiest boat I've ever seen, except for grown, I'd say up there with the Spirit yachts. Have you seen Spirit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's up there with that kind of league.
I'm really pleased for both of you in all sorts of ways.
Yeah,
I'm pleased that,
She's been looked after.
yeah.
A little update on what's going on. Melissa is sewing still. We've just had Pam on the phone telling us that Melissa's not allowed to do anything strenuous, but she is only sewing, Pam, honestly. Here's where we're up to in here. This is my battery bay. There's my Multi Plus 2. What I've got to do now is go into the cockpit locker and retrieve the cabling that Andy helped me wire in the other day, or a few weeks ago now actually. Thanks, Andy. And that's going to run through the engine bay, through here from the cockpit locker on that side. The boards are already out, through the engine bay. All of this needs tidying up. I'm aware that that's shameful, that engine bay, but trust me, I'll get to it all in good time. I can't do everything at once, but I'm going to run that cable to take AC into the Victron, and then AC back out of the Victron and back into our shoreline, and that should mean that we can then switch the Victron on at least, and we'll see. I'll double check, but with AC in and AC back out, we should have power straight to the boat, but just going through the Victron, it's doing nothing then but feeding itself, kind of thing, or feeding the boat. Right, I'm not relishing this. It's cold and damp and horrible out there, but I've got to do it. Well, as you can see, there's an awful lot to do back here. There's an awful lot of cabling that needs sorting out, and it's all good and it all works, but it's all a bit kind of could do with a re-engineer and tidy it all up and make it look a bit less untidy. This is the kind of easiest, simplest way to explain it. Our shore power cable currently comes in here and plugs in the wall there, which supplies our boat. Fine. We want our inverter to supply our boat. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the shore power into this. So we're going to plug the shore power into there, and that's going to feed AC into the Victron. So the first thing I want to do is actually run this cable all the way through in as tidy fashion as I can through to the inverter on the other side of the engine bay. So there's the cable that I've just brought through, which I need to route along the back of that bulkhead, which again is going to do my head in because of how untidy it is, but I will be tidying it all up over time. It's then going to come down into this corner under the floor here. Look, more water tanks. There's so much tankage on this boat. There's one under this side and one under the galley. Along with all of this, which will eventually be in nice conduits and labelled and everything, into there, out through here and up to the back of that box. I'm making up some patch leads to join positive to positive, negative to negative, etc, etc. So one of the important things is to make sure that the patch leads are all the same length, so I'm cutting them all the same length, and then negative to negative and so on, and then my feed to my supply will be one off either end of the battery bank. typically you wouldn't take the feed from one end of the battery bank, because then it kind of draws the batteries down unevenly. You take the positive from one end and the negative from the other. Right, so I've run all my cabling from the lazarette or cockpit locker across under the floor, through the engine bay, under the floor, up underneath that workbench in the crawl through. Connected it all up to the Victron Multiplus 2. The reason I'm not putting the Multiplus over there and I'm taking cables backwards and forwards is because that cockpit locker is a sail locker and it's going to end up getting wet. So it's fine to have the kind of inlet in there. You lift up the locker and plug your inlet in, but I don't really want to put the Multiplus in there. They're pretty good, but it's not like IP whatever it is waterproof. So I'm going to just switch over the power to turn the inverter on. The inverter on for the first time. The batteries aren't connected, so it's not going to be charging anything, but at least it'll show us whether it comes on and whether it's alive. The moment of truth. So I'll remove this. On. Low battery, that's fine. It's just going to go through a diagnostic at the minute. It's obviously saying low battery. Inverter on. Yeah, there we are. So mains on. Now if I put my multimeter across those, it should show something. And it's trying to charge a battery that doesn't exist, right? So we should be able to, I'm guessing, I might be wrong here. Hang on. So it's charging at 14.42 volts. So the next step, it says it's charging at 14.42 volts. Of course, it's not, because there's no batteries connected to it. What it means is that it's all up and working. And the next thing for me to do is to read the manual, RTFM as they say, on the Bluetooth bus that I can connect it to this, so that I can connect it to my phone and configure it all. So this here is the VE Bus Smart Dongle. And you connect it to the Multiplus with an Ethernet cable, and then it enables you to Bluetooth into this to set up your charge profiles so that it's charging lithium batteries, not other types of batteries. I've got this big work surface here and it's really inaccessible. So what I've done, it's very deep storage this. It's great for putting stuff that you're never going to need to get to for lots of years. So I've cut out a neat little panel in there, and look at that. There's my battery bank. How about that, eh? And there's room for another 3 there and another 3 underneath. I was going to put them under the chart table, but then what actually occurred to me was this area here, because it's less accessible generally, it's going to be more of a pain in the bum if I use this for tool storage. So I'm going to be putting my batteries under here, which are hardly ever going to see the light of day, and then use the more accessible cupboard for tool storage and other paraphernalia. And of course these batteries are going to be held down. I've got some thick heavy-duty webbing straps which I'm going to put in over the top of each battery to stop them moving around. There's a handy shelf. With normal lead acid or AGMs, you really need to keep them trickle charged and topped up to 100% to full all the time. Lithium batteries don't like that, which is why if you've got a drone and you keep charging your batteries thinking that you're going to fly, and then you don't fly and you leave your batteries full all the while, you'll kill them. They'll puff up and die. So I'm not going to charge these batteries today, but I want to just see if I can charge them, and I'm going to need to set up the charge profiles at some point. So first of all, here's the very basic setup. Once I've got these all installed, I'll put that on there, because the VE Bus Smart Dongle also acts as a temperature sensor, which is amazing. So that's really good. If I turn that on now, we can see the inverter now says it's on. And on our Victron Connect, we can actually monitor that and see what we can see on here. Victron Connect, there we are. VE Bus Smart HQ213U7FDX. Let's go into there and connecting, fetching data. It says it's inverting, so it's putting out our AC out, and we'll go into the detailed view, and we've got
230 volts out. We're not using that at the moment, but that's what it would be putting out. I'm going to go and switch over with the power cables in the cockpit locker to turn on the main side as well, so we can actually start looking at charging profiles. So I've got the charger and inverter on. What we need to do is go into charging our charging profiles. Charger only, inverter only. It's an absorption charge. There you go, 14.67 volts going into that battery. But I perhaps need to just do a little bit more figuring out how to set up the charge profile, because I can't see anywhere on here where I can set that up. The bottom line is our inverter is on, our batteries are charging. I need to do a little bit more figuring out how to set up the charge profile in Victron Connect, because I can't see anywhere in the Victron Connect app where I can actually change the charge profile and the voltage settings for charging the lithium batteries. I'm going to switch it back now to bypass the inverter so that we're just running straight off shore power, and I'm going to come back to this next time, because like I say, I don't actually want to charge these lithium batteries up 100% charged, because they like to be kept at that kind of nominal state of 50 to 70%. So we'll come right back to that next time, or next time I get back to this job. Right, so what was I doing wrong? Well, quite simply, it turns out that you can't set up the charging profiles using the Bluetooth dongle as I thought. It has to be the USB dongle, which is another £75 or so, which I don't have spare at the moment, so that's a pain in the bum, but it'll have to wait until next month for me to finish setting up the batteries when we've got a few more bills out of the way. Oh well, no big deal. It's all a learning curve, eh?
Bye-bye, little boat. I'll see you soon. So we're off the long slog back to North Wales. 7 hours? 7 or 8 hours, depending on stops and traffic.
7 hours without traffic.
Yeah, 7 hours if we didn't stop. And there wasn't much traffic, but yeah. And unfortunately, the whole time we've been here, the weather has been absolutely awful, like brutal, hasn't it?
Yeah, like force 10.
Yeah, force 10, 9, 10. Haven't been able to get out of the boat, so all the projects have been inside. And today, and last night, it was flat calm, no wind, freezing, absolutely freezing.
Not ideal for sailing back to Wales.
But yeah, it's just turned, and the next sort of week looks pretty good for sailing home, but we've got to go home, unfortunately. I've got midwife appointments and stuff like that, and Jack's got some homeschool clubs that he's signed up for that we need to go back for, and it's just timing. We're hoping that the following week might be I keep looking away from the camera because I don't want to accidentally walk off the pontoon. We're hoping that the following week might be ideal, but we shall see. It's January after all. Goodbye, Ocean Melody. See you soon.